Today we've got an interesting situation. I'm in Australia and I've got two guests coming on the webinar today. Last week, or 2 weeks ago, we had our guest speaker coming from Switzerland. So I guess we're really getting our head around all this new way of being able to do things. So hopefully there's no glitches. Hopefully there's no problems with internet and all that sort of thing. But I'm sure we'll get through it anyway. So if there are some problems, please accept my apology now. It's a real pleasure to introduce my host today. One of these ladies I've known for 22 years, Eleanor and I'm really looking forward to what Eleanor's got to say. But I haven't met Fleur Gibbons, her business partner, yet. So really looking forward to you speaking as well, Fleur, and telling us all about your business, Homestage Limited. Now, before I ask you two to start commenting, I'd like to actually talk about the question or the topic that we've put up today, and it's homestaging. I think has a few myths around it, and a lot of people have ideas on what homestaging actually is and what it actually, or where it should be used and how it should be used and all this sort of thing. And I'm hoping today, after Eleanor and Fleur have had their talk with us, that those myths have been debunked and we're all a lot wiser to how and what we can be doing with homestaging and the impact that comes from homestaging. So that's the whole focus of the webinar today. It's to really achieve that. And I'm pretty confident with these two that we'll get there. But before we talk about actual homestaging, Eleanor, would you like to give us a bit of a rundown about your company and how you and Fleur came together and put the company together and all that sort of thing, so the audience knows a bit about you, I guess.
Perfect, thanks Len, and hello to everybody who's tuned in today. So absolutely, you've got two of us from Homestage Limited today. You've got myself and Fleur. Our company has been going for 9 odd years. We did not set the business up, but we bought it 4 odd years ago. We were lucky enough to buy the business from a pioneer in homestaging. The woman who had set up the company has been doing staging for over 25 years, 30 odd years in the Auckland market. So she really was a trailblazer back in the day when homestaging wasn't a thing. And we learned the business from her, through her, and she's still involved in the business today, actually, as a very dear friend. So Homestage has been going for 9 odd years. Ownership might have changed, but the things that haven't changed is just always looking to add value and be a support to vendors and agents alike, because homestaging is very much a part of the sales process, we believe, and working with agents to achieve the best possible outcome for a vendor, regardless of the state of their home, their house, their property, whether it's a new build or an old dunger.
Right. And we'll talk a little bit about the difference and all that sort of thing as we go on. Eleanor, do you want to talk a little bit about your background before we turn to Fleur for her side of the story, so to speak?
Absolutely. So first and foremost, I might be an interior designer now, but I'm a salesperson first and foremost, and that has been my career. After getting a marketing qualification from Auckland University, went through some marketing and sales for 15 odd years in recruitment, so service-based industry, and really working with people who have got problems and working to find solutions. And that's still very much a big part of what I do today, albeit with more soft furnishings and furniture.
Well, great tools to bring to this sort of business, that's for sure. Fleur, how are you? And
I'm good. Nice
welcome.
to see you, Len.
Yeah. And,
we have met once before. You must have forgotten. Yes.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. That's
My
all right.
apologies.
No problem. It was a while ago. Ago.
There you go. Yeah. Do you still recognise me?
I sure do. Still as handsome as ever.
Oh, thank you very much. Hey, Fleur, what's your background? What have you brought to the partnership, and how's that working for you?
Yeah. So my background is is quite different from Eleanor's. I was a registered nurse for 15 years. So I worked in the operating theatres in orthopaedic nursing. And over the course of that time, I found myself getting quite frustrated with things, and eventually ended up in medical sales, and suddenly discovered my love for sales and my love for people, you know, in terms of meeting new people and things like that. So sales became my passion and my favorite thing to do until I had children. And unfortunately with medical sales, it was a lot of travel, it was a lot of overseas travel, and it was something that I couldn't maintain. So I kept along the sales background for a little while, and actually got involved with Tupperware, if you can believe that, but was very successful with Tupperware. I ran a team, the #1 team in Auckland, for quite a while. We were recognised and achieved lots of overseas travel with them.
Right.
For myself and my husband as well. And I mean, I've got a love of interior design for a long time. I love anything interiors, and yeah, the business kind of found us as kind of how it went.
Yeah.
And Eleanor and I had worked together in another capacity as well, and it was something that we've just got a really good working relationship. We both have very different skill sets, but we do both love people and love supporting people. And so, you know, we both bring that to the table.
Oh, wow. Well, it sounds like the perfect partnership. So
It is.
yeah, long
Most
may
of
it
the time.
go on and stay strong. And
You're really lucky.
congratulations to both of you, what you've achieved in the last 4 years.
Thanks, Len.
Let's cut to the chase. You know, let's try and debunk the big myth that I believe is out there, that staging homes is for expensive vacant homes. That's probably the crux of so many people's thoughts around home staging. So I'll come back to you, Eleanor. How would you overcome that myth? And
oh, look, I've got a really neat example that a case we worked on. This home was in Manurewa, albeit an up and coming part of Manurewa, but still you could tell there was a lot of rental properties around this home. So the overall standard of the area was low, let alone the condition of this home. They'd owned it for 12, 14 years. Fleur, do you know the one I'm thinking of? They had rented it out and were very happy to have 7, 8, 9 people living in the house at any given time, and they hadn't done anything to the home in all that time. The carpet was literally black. Initially, I think it started off as a peach kind of colour, and it was a really gross black grey colour through the main living area. And they got us in to do the home staging, and we walked in and we were like, oh wow, this is a good one, a real dog. But I've got to tell you, and this is where we can debunk the myth, the thought process that by spending money on staging a dog is not going to return any dividend. I can debunk the quality of the photos that were taken from that listing. We took before and after photos, Len, and it was like looking at 2 different houses. Yeah. Okay, it was probably still a dog from the street, but once the advertising campaign on the inside of the home, very inviting, and didn't even look black on the carpet anymore. But by the time we put the rug down, the couches, art on the wall, the eyes were drawn up. You couldn't compare the home, really couldn't.
So maybe Fleur can, I've got a bit of an echo there. Fleur can comment about this. So there wasn't any need for major painting or floor covering or anything like that. You with your skills and your materials, let's call it that, could actually make it something completely different to what it was.
Well, yes, and I think that's one of the things that home staging achieves, is that it actually it tends to draw people's eyes away from the imperfections and look at the potential space and the value, you know, what a space can actually be, as opposed to, oh, that piece of wallpaper's ripped or the carpet needs replacing. So yeah, definitely I think every house can do with some kind of home staging, whether it's a partial or just a full stage. I think looking at a marketing campaign online and you look at an empty house, you don't know what you're looking at, and sometimes in those rooms. So am I looking at a bedroom or am I looking at a lounge? So having furniture in those spaces really defines them, and it helps people visualize what these spaces are and what they can be used for.
Good comment, Fleur. Can I ask, have you been doing properties where the owners are a little bit, and I've got to be careful when I use this word, they're a little bit embarrassed about the standard of their furnishings, and
absolutely,
yeah, furnishings out, and you've brought in your furnishings? Does that happen regularly?
It does. I think that one of the things that Eleanor and I do is we just assure people that, when we do go into homes and they're very embarrassed about the state of their couch or the state of whatever it is, they'll say, oh, I'm so embarrassed. And we say, look, this isn't the worst house we've ever seen. And also this is your family home. You've got kids or you've got dogs or whatever it is. And we, put their minds at ease that a throw in some cushions does wonders to a couch, So, people do get a little bit embarrassed, but I think the home stager can absolutely put them at ease. You don't go in there with your nose in the air and think that you want people to be relaxed and feel safe with you. So
I think, and I think you're leading to where I was going to ask too, is that there is, I think, a theory out there that the house has to be vacant, but you're saying that you can stage homes that people live in and stay living in while it's being marketed. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. And with people living in their homes, we want them to be comfortable. So we try and utilise as much of their furniture as possible. I mean, our furniture is not for living on, so we try and use their ugly red couch, but we neutralise it with, softer coloured throws and things like that. And we've done this before. We've amazed agents. They're like, oh no, I really want that couch to go. I don't like that couch at all. And we say, it's okay. We're going to make it look fine. And they walk in and they go, wow, I can't believe that that's the same room.
So would you call, this is my words, when I would describe it, was that like a semi-staging? Is it?
Partial.
Partial. There you go. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's move our minds a little bit to the left, so to speak, and we think about. I would like our audience to hear how you go about when you see a house for the first time. How you go about conceiving what it needs to have and how it should look. How does that process work with you two ladies? Maybe Eleanor, your turn to have a chat around that.
We can go in with just the real estate agent, or we meet just the vendor. And then there are times when we are all together as a team. So the vendor, the real estate agent, and we come on in. Whenever we're approaching a property, our biggest priority is considering the marketing campaign. Who's going to buy this home? Who's going to be interested in paying top dollar for this home? And wrapping our heads around that. And once we've got that image in mind, that profile in mind, looking at each room and how they relate to the next space. So open plan, flow, access through doorways, hallways. We can't have furniture necessarily that's overhanging entranceways or access ways, because we think of visitors to a home, an open home, as water. They literally have to be able to flow freely through every space. And maximising the space of the room. So we want rooms to feel as big as possible. Another little tip, actually, that sounds contradictory is, ironically, a room, sometimes the bigger the piece of furniture, the bigger it feels. So you can get away with putting a larger format couch into a lounge room, and it makes the space feel bigger. It's a neat little tip that we do sometimes. But coming back to the consultation, we aim to be on the property for anywhere between 20 minutes to an hour, depending on the size of the home, how engaged we are with the vendor, how many questions they might have. If it is a lived-in, it can definitely take up to an hour, just taking into consideration their individual items, We make recommendations on what should stay, what should possibly be considered to move. Some vendors start selling off things if they know they're downsizing, they know they don't need that chest of drawers or table any longer. They'll start the process of downscaling, selling, or gifting ahead of our arrival and what we bring into the home.
Yeah, I like the fact that you to have that consultation sort of part of your business with the vendor and working them through, because from a real estate agent's side, it takes a little bit of the heat out of that whole, and it's not always heat. But
it can be, Len. No, to your point, we see ourselves as an extension of the real estate agent's offering and the real estate agent's team.
Yeah.
And that ultimately, that's the relationship we want to get to, is that we are part of your team.
Yeah.
Therefore, when we're going into these situations and potentially dealing with some prickly, emotionally charged questions or topics about what should stay, what should go, we're happy to be the bad cop. We're happy to be the one to say, hey, this is what we think, and keep the realtor in the good cop seat. So we're really taking any heat, shall we say, and deflecting it off the sales agent.
Yeah, there's I think, if we look at our business and your business, and, I know we've got potential vendors watching today, it is one of the biggest things you do in your life, buying and selling a house, and the stress and the anxiety that comes with it is huge.
Very real.
We've
really
both been through the process ourselves and understand how stressful it is.
Yeah, we've got to be so in tune to that, and but then we've got an obligation to our vendors, because we've signed up to make this the most successful experience as well. So whilst we've got to nurse that situation, it's got to start well, and this is where it all starts. Before I come to, sorry, you were going to say something.
No, I'm agreeing wholeheartedly with you that the photo shoot and what happens in the lead up to the photo shoot really is the beginning of the whole campaign.
Yeah.
And so I guess finishing off on your initial question, is our approach to any individual property is, what are we going to deliver photo-wise that's just going to sing? And be that front cover photo that's on the poster board out the front, or maybe in the front cover of the local printed media.
All right. Before I come to you with another question, Fleur, I did miss saying to everyone that if you've got a question, please, you can turn your mic on at any time and ask these ladies your question, or you can put it in the chat box and we'll come to it at some point. So don't hold back. This is a real opportunity to pick the brains of these two ladies. Okay, like we've talked about how you set it up in your mind, how it's going to look, and then you go to work to put it all together. What sort of time frame are we talking here? Say from the time that you actually get in to have a look at the house to when it's out. I know there'd be variances between houses and how big a job it is and all that sort of thing. But on average, can you give us a bit of a ballpark figure on what that time frame might be, so that if we've got intending sellers listening and watching, they can make a judgment call on when you guys should be getting called in?
Yeah. So the more lead time as homestagers that we can have, the better. In terms of knowing when a property is going to come on. So at the moment, we're looking for about 2 weeks lead time. So we would go and see the property. 2 weeks from there, we would book the date into the diary as to when photography is booked. We like to come in as close to photography or all the day of photography to maximise the period of time that the vendor has. So it's a 5-week campaign. So we like to come in right bang on the day of photography or the day before to maximise it. In terms of how long the actual installation takes, it is different per house. Some houses take a couple of hours, some houses take 5 hours, just depending on what needs to be done. We find that the partial homes take up a lot more of our time than the full stages when we're dealing just with an empty blank surface or page, because there is a lot of that liaising with the vendor in terms of what they're going to keep in the home as to what they're going to need. And then when we actually get into the house, there's lots of things that we like to look at in the rooms, shall we position the couch this way or this way, and what are we going to do? So we're trying to really maximise what they've got in their home and showcase their home to the best ability. So have I answered that question? Does that make sense?
You have. Yeah, I think it's earlier the better. It's probably
definitely the more. Definitely. You can never be too
organised.
Too organised. But we do have people calling us the day before they're wanting to get staging. We need it tomorrow. And where we can, we do that. But in this current climate at the moment, it's just
We'll come to the current climate in a moment as well, because I want to talk about that. But I guess it is important to try and get you guys in as early as possible. And I was just going to suggest that some of my salespeople that might be listening today that want to go forward with staging or have properties that could be staged now that they're hearing all this, would be maybe wise to actually get you in even before the actual listing is signed up. That can give a real good head start to the whole process. So, but I guess that's another topic and another subject that we can talk about at a later time. So you touched on, Fleur, the change in the market, and I think this is a significant issue in all our businesses at the moment. What we're experiencing and you would be experiencing is that the days on the market is blowing out. It's almost blowing out in front of our eyes, so to speak, in many cases. So how does that work when you've got a situation where a person is got you in? So let's use the example of you've done a full house or a few rooms, and you've staged it all, and I heard you, Fleur, refer to it as a 5-week program or 5-week staging. What's the situation if it goes to 6, 7 or 8 weeks now? How does that play out with you guys, and how do you deal with that?
Well, from the get-go, we have our terms of trade, which explains all of this to our vendors. But what happens at that 5-week mark, let's say that they were an auction campaign, it didn't sell at auction, but they've got some conditional offers on the table and they think, right, we need another couple of weeks. So what we do is we offer what's called a rollover, and the rollover gives them an extension week by week, and the rollover fees are 20% of the initial price plus GST that they put it in for. Some people like to, just given how long things are taking to sell, some people like to do 4 weeks. So we would charge them a 4-week rollover. If they sell unconditional within, 2 weeks, then we refund them the 2 weeks of the 4 weeks that they've paid because they haven't needed to use that. So that's what we offer as a business.
Well, there is some flexibility there.
Absolutely.
There's actually a lot of flexibility.
At the end of the 5 weeks going in and whipping the stuff out.
We try to be like, if they get to their 5-week, the hire period's about to expire, they're going unconditional in another 3 or 4 days. We actually absorb that. We say, you know what, let's just let it sit there for you. Like, this isn't about trying to get any more out of the vendor. If it's less than a week, we're very flexible and accommodating and just trying to be a part of that solution at that crunch time of a deal coming together, not part of any problems.
And at the beginning of the campaign as well, I think that there are some vendors that want to negotiate an 8-week campaign. So, people, if they want, and this is for agents as well, just talk to the home stager. There's always ways that these things can be accommodated.
Yeah, cool. Okay. Just out of curiosity, how many house lots would you guys be carrying at this time? How many houses could you stage? Because
28 odd, 27, 28.
Depends if it's 2 lounges or 1 lounge,
Depending how far our houses lots will go.
That's right.
Yeah, it's a lot of house lots, 28, I guess. But then I guess the other side of, and this is where I was leading with my question, is the other side of days blowing out on the market. we're having to carry more and more listings, and therefore you guys must be having to carry more and more houses. So, you know, your demand is mounting.
Yeah, it's a balancing act, Len. It's a real balancing act. And there's differing approaches from vendors. Not all vendors are prepared to extend their staging hireage. They do get to the end of their campaign, their 5 weeks, and they're quite happy to just call it a day at that point. For their own reasons, they're not prepared to put any more money into the marketing campaign.
Sure.
Or maybe they feel that they're getting close enough, it's not necessary anymore. So it's a real juggle.
Yeah. Just out of, and this is probably going right back to the beginning where we talked about why people should seriously consider about staging their home or improving the way their home looks. Have you got any, other than that one, I think it was Mangere you were talking about, have you got situations where a vendor's come back to you and said, wow, we seriously believe we got so much more for our property because of what you guys did? Has that ever been spoken?
Yeah, we've got several examples of that, which is great.
Yeah.
The one that I'm thinking of in particular was a property that had been on the market for about 4 months with an agent, and it had no offers on it. It had sat there, and the vendor was in a world of hurt because she actually had bridging finance. She'd purchased another property.
Wow.
So she decided to try a new agent. The new agent came in immediately, said you need staging because the property was empty at the time. We came in, put the staging in, they did their campaign marketing, and within the first week of open homes, they had more people through the open homes than the previous agent had in the entire time he had had it for four months.
Fantastic.
So, and then off that, 2 lots of open homes on the Saturday and Sunday, they got 3 offers on the house and got it sold.
Wow.
So that was the first week of open homes. So that was massive. That was one of our first real exciting moments in Homestage for Eleanor and I. Yeah, Eleanor and I. That was amazing.
Yeah, great story, Fleur.
Well, I'll give you one that's potentially going to appeal to the more scientific of mind or the mathematical of mind. We have a real estate agent based here in Howick. He had a listing. He actually had 2 listings in, let's call it botany. A lot of the houses in that area are very, very similar. You know, they're all quite carbon copies of each other. They were not on the same street, but they were around the corner from each other. Built roughly the same time, very, very strong parallels between the 2 separate houses. The one of them, we were invited to come in and stage. The other listing, the vendor didn't want to have a bar of it, was really happy with their own home as it was, thank you very much. And both houses went to the market more or less the same time. The house that had been vacant and staged sold within the campaign. It sold at auction. And looking back, I believe they got in excess of $100,000 more than the neighbour.
Wow.
So that's quite quantifiable.
Carbon copy home.
And the real estate agent approached this whole thing knowing it was going to be a really great opportunity for him. He's very much pro presentation, pro staging, and he was following this exercise with great interest, purely so he could move forward with new vendors, other vendors, and say, hey, look, firsthand, this is why you need to stage.
Yeah. That's a great story, Eleanor. Thanks for sharing that with us. Before I talk about costings, because I think we need to really go there as well. Let's maybe there's people out there thinking, well, how do I live in a house where I've got partial staging and all that? What if something breaks, or what if something gets damaged, or what if something even got stolen while the campaign was being run? What happens in that scenario? Have you?
So there's 2 different elements to that question, if I'm hearing it right. There's the lived-in loss, which is covered by a bond, and we understand things happen. It's accidental, but we do ask for a bond at the front end. It's generally around $200. It can be a little bit more if there are young children or animals living on the property. but let's just say it's typically $200. And the good news is that we generally always give back our bonds, don't we, Fleur? There's very rare instances when even if it's a vase that's broken, we absorb that as a cost of sale. It was not done intentionally. Loss, on the other hand, due to theft, is covered under insurance, and that's a different, I think, a different topic, or not a different topic, but a different point, because we have unfortunately lost furniture due to break-ins, and I'm not an angry person, but geez, that makes me mad, makes me wild. So we really rely on our real estate agent to make sure that security is paramount, that the property is left secure every time it's been opened, over and above a lived-in. We've never lost anything from a lived-in. It's generally all our vacant stagings that are targeted by the baddies. And let's be honest, if they want to steal something, they're going to move heaven and earth to get in there. You're generally not going to stop a baddie if they want to steal something.
Right.
But again, relying on the team to make sure the property is secure, any alarms that are available are set. And then we do have our insurance. So we carry the insurance, but as per our terms of trade, we ask the vendor to cover the excess in this instance.
All right. And what sort of money would that be, the excess?
So if it is a true break-in, it's $1,000.
Okay.
If it's theft because the front door was left unlocked or a window was left open, it's $2,000.
Okay.
But we've never had a $2,000 insurance excess to ask for. I've only ever been at the theft side, and that's been 2 times. Fleur?
Yeah.
2 times.
Yeah, 2 times.
Yep.
Yeah, 2.
All right.
3 times.
Can I ask a question, please?
Yeah, sure.
To Team Saya, and I heard she live in Howick. Do you have any open home this weekend you're going to, or I love to go, because I live in Howick and have a look at your. I just asked if you have a showroom or thing like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not selling, but I got some street rental property in around Auckland. So I do some working with Astral in Newland, because of one of my houses in Henderson.
Yeah. No,
So
absolutely. We'll have some listings.
So I like to have some sort of have a look and your quality of fashion. I like fashion as well. Yeah, so I
like you already.
Yeah, to see my
I wonder if in the
Yeah.
comments, Len, how would it be if our listener there put a comment in with the email address, or however you felt comfortable with me contacting you directly, and I can send you a list of current installations, and you can either check them out online or to your leisure go and visit them.
Thank you so much.
Easy.
It really, really helps.
Just put it into the chat box, and my assistant in Auckland will get a copy of that for you to Eleanor. So thank you. Great question though. What a great question. Thank you very, very much for asking that question. Yeah, fantastic. Thanks. Okay, Eleanor, or Fleur, whoever wants to take this one, let's talk about the costs. I know each one will be slightly different, or you may have some base figures that you can get to, but again, I think some people think that this is super expensive and it's unaffordable and whatever. And I again want to debunk that myth as well by telling them how cheap it is.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got some standard pricing. So for a 3-bedroom, 1 lounge, 1 dining house, no outdoor furniture, it's going to be $1,925 plus GST, and that's for 5 weeks. Add another bedroom to that, and it goes up by another $250, so it's $2,175 plus GST. A larger house, like a 4-bedroom, 2 living, would be about $2,775 plus GST. Does that make sense? Outdoor furniture can range from $150 up to sort of $400 for your large sets. But we certainly, in terms of our pricing, are very much bang in the middle, because yeah, we know that we're not the most expensive and we're not the cheapest either, but what we deliver in terms of our styling and things is pretty good, I reckon.
Sounds like our position in the market as well. So yeah, I like that.
And the partials, just an indication for partials there, they can start as little as $600-700 and go up from there.
And I know this will sound an obvious answer, but I better clarify it. Is a partial a 5-week partial?
Yes.
Well?
Same. Yeah.
Thank you.
Good guess.
All right. Look, just before we finish, is there one bit of advice that either of you could actually give, or both of you could give me, that that would be very, very valuable to both real estate people and potential vendors that are potentially listening today? Is there one standout bit of advice that you've got? Fleur's got the finger up first. You go first, Fleur.
My favourite thing to say when I'm talking to vendors is the way that we live in our home and the way that we present or market our homes are completely different things.
Yes.
So what a home stager does is it really helps buyers visualize the potential of your home. So that's our role. We know what's going to help sell this home. And yeah, just trust in the experts.
Brilliant. All right.
And my little tip is declutter, and then declutter some more.
Yeah.
You know, we deal with lovely people who have been in their homes for 15, 20, 25 years. And there's a lot of living and life in that home after that amount of time. So even if staging's not an option, any real estate agent, if you can, just really encourage people to start the packing process. That's how we put the spin on it with our vendors. Is think of it as beginning the move. You are putting your home on the market with the intention to move. So start packing stuff away, and that includes family photos, personal items, extra bits. Just start packing them up, putting them in a box, and don't be afraid to put them in the garage. Sometimes it's as easy as putting things into the garage. Garages aren't photographed, they're not normally part of the campaign photography, and it makes sense to anyone visiting the property. If there are boxes and bits in the garage, it's not an issue.
Yeah, you want sorry, Len, for the agents out there, if people can't afford to homestay, trying to neutralize the home to appeal to a lot of buyers, you know, like if they're rock and roll crazy and they've got rock and roll paraphernalia everywhere, you want to try and downsize
Tone it down
just to appeal to a few more people.
Open it up.
Look, I guess my little comment on what you guys have just shared, and that's fantastic, is that we are dealing with humans. Humans have feelings and senses and emotions, and buying a house and having those sensations stimulated is very, very important to the whole sale process. There's very, very few homes that we sell where a buyer buys it and doesn't like it or even fall in love with it. So what I see you two doing is actually creating that sensation, creating that stimulus, creating that feeling of this is where I want to be, and I love the feel of this house and the whole ambience of the house. Now, a lot of the time that's not being created. Now I look at the market we're into, where we've gone to we aren't quite there yet, but a lot of people might say that we are, but there seems to be a real shift towards buyers now. And if a lot of sellers have got a lot of competition, and that's being played out with open home numbers not being great at times and all that sort of thing. I love your story about how the houses side by side virtually had way different numbers, and the photography and the staging obviously got those people there. So I think there's some real lessons to be learnt in what you guys have actually shared with us today. And I want to say a massive thank you to both of you for giving up your time. I know how busy you are. You know, those 28 lots have got to be moved around and used regularly. That's how you make your money. But you know, I want to really say that I appreciate the time that you've given us today. There's been, I think, some wonderful advice there for our potential sellers, borne out by that lady that asked that question as well. So thank you, Eleanor. Thank you, Fleur. Really, really appreciate what you've done today. And yeah, look forward to seeing you both sometime
Thank
soon.
you.
Thank
All
you
right.
for the
very much.
opportunity.
Thank you so much.
Good luck, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
You too. Bye.